What's going on, everybody? We are here live with a friend of mine. This is Hunter Robinson. Hunter is a patron for the channel, and I sent out a solicitation to try to get some people from the community to come hang out. We'll learn more about those of us in the community, talk about what they are into, and yeah, share some reactions to some of these announcements. So, Hunter, how we doing?
Doing well. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Happily. You were, like I told you, one of the ones that I was hoping we're going to say yes. And knowing the kind of movies that you like, I think you're going to be a really nice, decent side to talk to on here because, like your October watch list that we're going to get into, super varied, which
Mhm.
awesome because not everybody, dives into something so specific like that, which is a
Yeah,
nice touch. So first, how did you discover the channel at the very beginning?
I discovered the channel through the Food for Thought podcast, actually.
Wow, I don't think I knew that.
Yep. Yeah, so I've been listening to that podcast since like episode 10, like for a long time.
Wow.
I'm a huge kung fu movie fan. And when I found that podcast, it instantly became like one of my favorite film podcasts. And
Nice.
and then I had heard Sean mention uh you a couple times, and then I started following you on Facebook and seeing the announcements on there.
Yep.
And then I sent you a message on Facebook just saying like, "Hey, I really am enjoying your YouTube channel," and then I looked into the Patreon and it was like I wanted to join and be part of the Discord, and yeah, it's a really cool group.
It's always nice to have you in there, and the biggest thing is that we have this wide variety of tastes in there, and it's always exciting to see what everybody's watching and just the difference across the day, how we can go from random noir films to trashy horror to something shot on video to some super sleazy vampire movie to Hitchcock all in one day. And Sean is great. I'm so glad that you like his stuff. He's fantastic.
Oh
Um,
yeah, he's amazing. I love his sense of humor. He's so funny.
He is great. I texted Flip earlier today because I was listening to their Talking Swords podcast, and the last episode they just did, Flip casually said at one moment, I'm going to read up my text just because I directly quoted him earlier. Speaking to Fu, he said, uh, "If we ever meet up, do you want to do heroin together?" And I just laughed. Yeah, it's fantastic. Uh, in the chat tonight, another patron. There's John. What's going on? And Dave and Eric, Antoine, Mitchell. Man, everybody's here tonight. Jeff, John, DeMarsico, my friend. Terry's here. Eric, hey. Sardis, he says, teach me something. So we got to dive in for Sardis tonight. My sister's here. What's going on? She just joined the Patreon and has been commenting as well. Video Man in, what's up? Found out you were one of the 3 channels I actually watch on YouTube about movies. Started with 100. Wow. I feel
Wow.
honored. That's 100 is a lot. I don't even know if I
Yeah.
could pull out 100 right now. Dead Sea Life is here tonight. And then Dylan, what's up? Okay, so what is your favorite type of movie?
Well, I definitely enjoy cult kind of cinema. I mean, I love
Yep.
like Italian horror movies, kung fu. But I also love, I mean, like I'm a huge Tarantino fan. I love David Lynch.
Nice.
And like classic Hollywood movies, that's really what I grew up on. I grew up watching tons of movies with my grandparents, and so I was watching like Casablanca and Cary Grant, Bob Hope movies when I was a kid. And I don't know if I've mentioned this on Discord, but I grew up with like really strict parents. And so I wasn't allowed to watch PG movies until I was 17.
PG until 17.
Until 17.
Woo!
So I
Wow.
watched tons of like Abbott and Costello, the Marx Brothers, Humphrey Bogart. Like grew up with tons of classic movies. So
Right.
yeah, the Italian stuff, the horror stuff, that came much later.
You weren't sneaking that at night when you were 11 or anything?
I did sneak some movies
Oh,
at my
nice.
grandparents' house. Every once in a while, they would let me rent something I wasn't allowed to rent. Like I think the first R-rated movie I rented was Scream.
Oh, cool. That's a
Yeah.
fun one. Surprisingly enough, I just watched that this week, and I have it within reach. That's pretty nice.
Nice.
Jeff says Hunter likes movies from the 50s. He's rubbing it in that I don't love that decade. Classic Hollywood is a big blank spot for me, and we're actually
Okay.
going to talk about Casablanca tonight, so that's fun.
Yeah.
Casablanca. So around that time, what are some of the other big ones that you really grab onto as memories from your childhood?
Let me see. Well, actually, I rewatched one this morning with Bob Hope, The Ghost Breakers, which is kind of a light horror comedy. I've probably seen that movie 25 or 30 times
Wow.
as a kid. And then some other ones. I actually watched Night of the Hunter when I was really young. I mean, I watched it because my name was in the title. And it really made an impression. And that's been one of my favorite movies for a really long time. I'm trying to think of some other kind of childhood favorites. I did get into the Universal Monster movies at some point, and Bride of Frankenstein is still a favorite. But yeah, and Cary Grant, he's always been probably my favorite movie star. Like Notorious, His Girl Friday, love those movies.
Notorious is great. And Cary Grant is one of those like capital N movie stars, which obviously it's very difficult to come by nowadays. It's probably I mean, obviously, I don't love the guy because of Scientology and all that, but Tom Cruise is probably the closest thing that we can compare to some of that. There are
Mhm.
others that maybe could get there to a point, but really, with the scope that Tom Cruise has gone into, that's kind of one of the hardest levels to get at nowadays with how many films are produced and everything. So, uh,
Yeah, I thought in the early 2000s, maybe George Clooney could have been like
yeah,
the next Cary Grant, but I feel like he started selecting more interesting projects, I guess you could say.
yeah, I think he made a lot of money and didn't have to work as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, George Clooney could have got there maybe. I really enjoyed a lot of his like Ocean's 11. He's incredible in that first movie.
Oh yeah, that's a really fun movie.
Yeah. And that's one way better than the original Ocean's 11. So much better.
Sure.
um Announcements. Why don't we get into those, and then Hunter and I are going to talk afterwards about some things that we've been planning on discussing. So make sure you stay around for that. But our first announcement is certainly not PG, so Hunter would have to wait till he was 17 to see. Invitation only. This is coming from Unearthed Films on January 24th. Wild that we are already getting stuff announced for 2023, but I guess it's about that time. Just this cover alone makes me want to look into invitation only. How do you feel about some of that extreme stuff like this?
I used to be way more into it. I mean, I would seek out anything that had a reputation for being extreme and gory.
Yeah.
And I still love, like, I mean, Fulci is a top 5 director for me, but I don't get into it as much as I used to.
That makes sense. I like some of it, and we're going to talk about some of it tonight when we get into our October watch list. But this one sounds pretty interesting, and it's another Asian horror film, which they do all kinds of these extreme releases over in Asia. So this is one I'll probably seek out. Unearthed does pretty good stuff. Next up, Kino Lorber announced Luc Besson's Kamikaze from 1986, and I know nothing about this. Nothing at all. This was a very soft announcement from them. Unless you know anything about this, I'm going to jump to the next one.
I don't know anything about it, but I'm curious because I feel like his earlier stuff at least has a great look to it.
Yeah, and this poster really brings to light some stuff that I like. Like immediately the first time I saw this, I thought of Tetsuo, and
Yeah.
I want to dive into something like this. Let's see a couple comments. We already got some people commenting about you. Dylan says Wes Craven and Paul Schrader didn't see a single movie till they were in college. That
Yeah.
is crazy. I don't think I knew that
Yeah.
about Craven.
Pretty wild.
Video Man and says, is Hunter into Italian shit? He said, yes, we could talk for hours. Collected 423 Giallo Western sleaze and horror from Italy. Nice.
Wow. That's awesome.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
Eric brought up Arsenic and Old Lace. I am so glad that we are getting a good release of that one.
Yeah, that's another childhood favorite for sure. I've seen that movie this at least 15 or 20 times.
Eric brought up the Junji Ito manga that's an adaptation of Frankenstein. That sounds fun. And then Sardis mentioned Bringing Up Baby. What's going on, Spaghetti? Let's see. Eric says, not the biggest fan of Invitation Only. It's okay. Felt like a second-rate torture flick. I mean, that's kind of Unearth's thing, to be honest. So only 1 out of every 5 of theirs are incredible. Video Man says Hunter also likes Fulci best. He is my twin. Luc Besson only produced Kamikaze. Got it.
Oh, okay.
And they really lean on that name then. Griff is here too. What's going on, Griff? All right, moving on. We are getting Nevada Smith from Kino Lorber from 1966, a Steve McQueen film. That's another almost capital M movie star for sure.
Oh, yeah.
This is one that a lot of people are excited about, one that people have wanted for a long time, but this is one I'm kind of surprised they didn't do a UHD of.
Oh, yeah, I feel like a UHD of especially a Western from that era would look really nice. And Henry Hathaway directed it, and he did some not early, but he did some noirs in the 40s that I really like Kiss of Death with Richard Widmark.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
This is the same year as Django. So, I mean, we've already seen how good a 4K from that time can look. Mm-hmm. I would have loved to have seen this on 4K. And then we got probably our biggest news of the week. So Fran Simeone, who used to be with Arrow Video, earlier this year left Arrow Video and announced that he was going to be starting a new label called Radiance Films. And it was not until this last Monday that we finally got our first look at what they would be releasing. So first off, the packaging. So on all of these, they appear to be the same as like a standard Criterion release, that Scanovo casing. And one of the things that I found coolest about this is that this left column here in red, this is going to be, what do they call it down here? I did not include it on that one because it was too long. Let's go to the next one. This includes it. OBI strip. This is what they call this on the side. It's an OBI strip that will leave the packaging free of certificates and markings. So even though the case looks like this whole red column is able to come off, and it will just be a beautiful piece of artwork without any of that branding on the front, and it will not have the crazy UK certificate marking at the bottom. The spines are going to be numbered, of course, and it looks very clean. What do you think first up when you look at Radiance and their packaging?
I think that is really cool. That the the rating logo, having that to be, you can remove it, I think is an awesome idea. And I do. I like that. I like their cover art too. It looks really nice.
I feel like Fran is really approaching this as somebody who collects himself and really, really trying to bring to mind something that will please people when they purchase this. And obviously the Scanovo cases are perfect height. They are sturdy. They're not like the stupid Eco Blue cases with the holes in the front. And a lot of these look like they're going to have booklets, and they look good. I think this is a solid step from them. So this first title, this is coming on February 6th in the UK and will also be in the US and Canada. This is A Woman Kills from 1968. This is one that you and I were just talking about, and this says it is a series of prostitute murders disturb the police with the thought of a serial killer on the loose. Helene Picard, a prostitute, is sentenced and executed for the murders, but shortly thereafter, similar crimes continue. Executioner Louis Guillebeau, meanwhile, develops a relationship with the investigating officer Solange, who soon learns Louis may not be who he says he is. This is filmed in the tumultuous events of May 1968. Jean-Denis Bonan's A Woman Kills never found distribution due to controversy around his first film, and the producer was unable to find distribution for the film for 45 years until it was brought back to life with a new restoration. Now it's released on Blu-ray for the first time anywhere in the world. Audiences outside of France can finally experience this utterly singular film. It is a new wave influenced serial killer film, and one that really, really enticed me when I first read these. You said you were interested in this. What drew you to this?
It sounds like the most. It sounds like it's somewhere like we talked about in between kind of art house and like psychotronic cinema. And yeah, it's just the most intriguing premise. And even the title, A Woman Kills, is a pretty strong title. So
it really is.
Out of all of their announcements, at least the ones that I'm unfamiliar with, this is the one that I think is the most intriguing.
I would agree there. This is getting a 2K restoration from the original 16mm elements, and this will have an audio commentary by Kat Ellinger, which, reminder in case you haven't watched, I had an interview with her on the channel just last week, and with her is Virginie Salavi, and there's an introduction by Virginie as well. There's also the On the Margin featurette, The Cursed Films of Jean-Denis Bonan, which is 37 minutes long, an updated documentary program, which I think it sounds really, really cool. We got some short films coming on this. Reversible sleeve. There's a limited edition booklet with some writing in it. And again, this just like the perfect package that really would make me want to look into getting this. And this is probably one I will look into picking up as soon as it is available somewhere.
Yeah, I'll pick this one up for sure.
Next one up, this one is also coming in the UK, US, and Canada. This one's coming soon. From 1968, this is Big Time Gambling Boss, and this is one that a lot of people have been familiar with. One of their more well-known titles that they announced as part of this first wave. This one is going to have a visual essay on it and some little short featurettes, a trailer, again, reversible sleeve, and that limited edition booklet. This looks like one you'd be interested in. Is this one that you are into?
Yeah, I'd probably be into this one. But yeah, it's a title I'm not familiar with, though.
Flip was talking about how he definitely wanted this one. So yeah, this is one. The people that have seen this seem to really enjoy this film. And the next one, Fill Her Up with Super from 1976. This is also a UK, US, and Canadian release. Not all of them are going to be available in North America. Only a few of these first 10 are, actually. This is about a car salesman who has to miss a family holiday to deliver a luxury Chevy station wagon to his boss's wealthy client. He decides to take his friend Philippe along with him for the ride across the length of France. On the way, they give a lift to a hitchhiker named Charles, who also brings along his friend Daniel. That's a very packed trip already. A buddy road movie that came together from genuine friendship developed throughout the months-long script workshop, giving the film a casual and naturalistic quality that predates Richard Linklater's similar approaches by some decades. This is one that made me take a couple glances at it because of that Linklater tie. I'd certainly check this out, but this is not one that made me go, you know, I have to have this right now.
Yeah, me neither.
But I'm interested at least. We got some comments on these already. So Terry says the OBI strip is something that's been in overseas CDs and LPs for years. I had no idea. That's awesome.
Neither.
Very good idea to bring it into Blu-ray. Jeff is asking, why did he break off on his own? Unfortunately, as a lot of times happens with some of these public faces, he never said why. There's been speculation and people making their own rumors for why. I mean, the Hut Group bought them. That could have had a part of it. Arrow started getting into more like mainstream type titles. That could have been a part of it. They scrapped the whole Arrow Academy line. Maybe he wanted to do more prestige films. So that could have been a part of it. Jeff also wants to know, do we expect these to sell out? We're actually going to talk about that when we get to the subscription thing. So we will talk about that. Next one is Miami Blues, a movie that a lot of us have seen before. This is Alec Baldwin from 1990. And this is a really great film, first of all. And there does not appear to be a ton that would make me want to buy this for the third or fifth time or whatever. Miami Blues, are you into that title?
Yes, it's an awesome movie.
This is possible. Well, before I say that out loud, I think this is Alec Baldwin's best film, probably. I'd really have to look at his filmography, but I do think that this is probably it's got to be top 3 at the very least.
Definitely best when he's one of the lead roles. I feel like once he became a character actor,
true.
He still was in some good stuff, but yeah, as a lead role, yeah, it's my favorite. I
do agree with that, and I hope that the whole New Mexico thing that's been going on over the last year is able to put behind him eventually. It wasn't his fault, obviously, but the fact that he was a producer on the film, there's been a lot of attention on him for sure.
Yeah, what a horrible, sad incident.
Yeah. This one does have a couple new features on this. We got David Jenkins looking at Miami Blues and Jonathan Demme's role in the production. We got pulp crime expert Maxime Jakubowski discusses the character of Hoke Mosley in both Miami Blues and Wilford's novels, in which he is a recurrent character. But that appears to be it. There is going to be a booklet in there with new writing on the film, and that is great. But other than that, a lot of the features from the previous copies are going to be included on this. So this is kind of an all-encompassing release. And if you don't have it yet, this is going to be a really great, like probably the best release that this film will ever get. But this one is only coming in the UK. So make sure that you're keeping that in mind. Not going to be a US release because MVD Rewind just re-released it.
Is it a new transfer?
No. Well, at least they are not highlighting a new transfer. It does just say HD digital transfer. And usually Fran is one to highlight when it's a brand new one. So let's see. Next one, Red Sun. This is another UK and US Canadian title. This is from 1970. This is Thomas gets a ride to Munich where he finds his ex-girlfriend Peggy, who takes him in. In her flat, he finds Peggy and her roommates have a commune-like lifestyle where they kill the men in their lives after 5 days. But will Thomas realize in time? A pop fantasy focused on the post-68 and women's lib movements, Red Sun was compared to a comic strip by Wim Wenders and is a beautiful art genre collision that is both brilliantly bizarre and provocative. I mean, first of all, that's great copy. That's awesome that they explained it like that. We got a lot coming in this, including a limited edition booklet with new writing on the film, including Sam Deegan. And there is some select scene commentaries with some involved with the film there, new interviews and visual essays that they will confirm later. How's this one sound to you?
That sounds pretty interesting, actually. This is one I had never heard of it.
Yeah.
And Sam Deegan's involvement does make me a little more interested. She's definitely someone, when I see her, on, like she's listed in the Blu-ray packaging, or if I follow her on Letterboxd, if she gives something 4 stars or more, I'm going to watch it.
Sam is great. And the fact that her writing specifically is in this, I love the way that she writes. And it's somebody that I can immediately grab onto with the style that she writes. It just, something about it draws me in. She's fantastic. Next one up. This is, again, only UK. This is She Dies Tomorrow, and this is a modern film. This is from 2020. This is when Amy is suddenly stricken by the random idea she will die tomorrow. A bizarre phenomena starts passing through her social circle where each and every person is eventually hit by the same realization that they will not last until the next sunrise, despite there being no obvious reason to believe this. I mean, just at that, I'm certainly in. It sounds like a wonderful psychological thriller. We got an audio commentary. We got a making of featurette, newly filmed interviews that'll be confirmed later, and a visual essay behind the scenes, bunch of stuff on this one. And again, limited edition booklet. I'm glad that they're doing that for all of these. What does She Dies Tomorrow say to Hunter?
Well, amongst my friends, this got very mixed reviews. I haven't seen it yet, but I have friends that absolutely love it.
Hmm.
and compare it to I think one of my friends said that it was like on par with It Follows
Wow.
him. And then I have other friends that couldn't stand it. Like they just absolutely hated it. But yeah, I never got
Interesting.
around to watching it. And is it Amy Simons? Is
I
that who
believe
directed
that's how you say it. Yes.
it?
Yeah.
I like her as an actor, so I would be kind of curious to check it out. But yeah, I just haven't up to now.
Yeah, and supposedly it's again it's not like super divisive, but for those that like it, seem to really like it, and those that
Mhm.
hate it seem to be pretty against it. And it's not, that seems to be what a lot of people are saying about film a lot of the time is it's either the best thing they've seen this year or it's just a worthless pile of trash. And to be fair, I mean, most movies are going to fall somewhere pretty square in the middle.
Right.
Yeah, this one sounds pretty good to me. And next up from their slate is The Man on the Roof from 1976. This is a cop film. Police officer Stig Nyman is murdered by an unseen assailant brandishing a bayonet. His colleagues Beck, Ron, and Kohlberg pick up the case quickly, keen to solve the crime on one of their own. Investigating Nyman and drawing up a list of potential suspects leads the team to discover he was a lousy cop who abused his power with a history of brutality. As their search draws closer, they are caught unaware by a rooftop assassin with a sniper rifle, picking off every cop he can. First off, I don't know how many people know this, but especially now that we are getting pretty separated through the generations, but this was a genuine problem back in the late 60s and 70s. There was a handful of random sniper killings. I mean, I think it was University of Texas. I think it
Hmm.
was UT. There was one that it was like an entire day that we had somebody standing up there and just picking people off. And if you go back and watch Severin's documentary, they put out The Killing of America. I think that's from 1981. They really do a great job of highlighting some of the terror that came about in this time. And it was seemed to be in the decade following right after that JFK got picked off. So stuff like this, I guarantee that feeling this in the movie theater in 1976 felt very different than it would nowadays.
Yeah.
Just being that close to it. So this is one that certainly caught my eye as well.
Hmm. Yeah, it sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And what's the country?
I believe this is a French film or U.S. Man, I don't remember on this one. That would become legendary in Sweden and remains the greatest crime film from the heart of Scandi Noir. So this is from Sweden, it looks like.
Okay.
Interesting. We got a 2004 documentary on this one on the making of. We got an intimate portrait of the filmmaker in which he discusses his films and approach to filmmaking. Interviewed during the shooting of this and the original trailer. So quite a bit on here again. Fran showing that he's going to go all in on special features. Nice booklet coming as well. Yeah, this is one I'm probably going to have to take a look at eventually. Then we have The Sunday Woman. Somehow we are still not done with this slate. This one is a UK, US, and Canadian film release from 1975. This is one that is getting a visual essay on the career of Jean-Louis Trintignant. We got a newly filmed and archival interviews that are going to be confirmed later. Let's see, limited edition booklet. And yeah, this is just another one. We got Jacqueline Bisset in this one. Is this one that caught your eye?
Not originally, but I see that the visual essay is by Tim Lucas,
Yes.
who I really like. I love his Mario Bava commentaries. But and I
Lucas
am
is
definitely a
great.
Jacqueline Bisset fan, so yeah, I might be curious to check this one out.
I would. I'd certainly like to see it for sure. Again, this seems like an interesting take on starting a label with. This seems like an odd
Mhm.
title, but I'm willing to bet some of these were just available sooner than some of their other titles. So looking forward to their next couple announcements for sure.
I think that
Uh,
is one thing about the announcements is there's none of these titles are a banger.
right.
Like there's nothing that really knocks you over.
If I was in the UK potentially, and there's a couple of these that I would really want that have not been available in the UK. that may have been one of the ones that I'd jump on immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff is asking, are any of these being released this year? No. The first is the first week of January. So, yeah, you are certainly going to have to wait. Let's see the next one. The Working Class Goes to Heaven from 1971. This, speaking of, is one of their first titles. This is a January 2nd release, only in the UK. This is the world English subtitled Blu-ray premiere. And this has Jean-Marie Vollant, stars in one of provocative filmmaker Elio Petri's most politically charged films as factory worker Lulu, a man on the verge of a nervous breakdown following an accident at work. Too tired to sleep with his girlfriend, cut out of his son's life by his ex, humiliated and disrespected, The Working Class Goes to Heaven is an oftentimes surreal and darkly comic look at the life of an everyday Italian trying to find a sense of purpose in a world where he is only allowed to be a tool for industry. The fact that this is a takedown of capitalism speaks to my little socialist heart, but this is an interesting title for sure. We got some archival interviews on here from the Cannes Film Festival, career encompassing archival interview, and that is from French TV. There are a couple things coming on here. We got a visual essay by Matthew Kowalski, and then a background to a film shot in Novara from 2006, and then a booklet. What does this one say to you?
I did not know it was Elio Petri. He's got a pretty interesting filmography. I actually can't recall the titles off the top of my head, but he's a really interesting director.
I've seen one or two from him. This is one that I don't think I've even heard of, to be honest. I probably have and forgot about it, but yeah, this certainly sounds interesting. I like some of those titles where it really talks about a very specific thing that leads to a taking down of some, wide philosophical idea like this. So certainly interested.
Yeah, did Petri do a Citizen, what's that called? Like Above Investigation or something?
Gosh, yes, that is very close to the title. Let me look that up as we speak about this. Elio Petri. Yes, it is A Citizen Above Suspicion. That's from 1970.
Yeah.
Wow, so that was right before this.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah, and it's the same cinematographer that shot Deep Red, which is a gorgeous film.
Yeah.
So very interested in this one all of a sudden. Wow, yeah, I did not put those together. Interesting. So that sounds great. And moving to the next one, which I think this is the last title. This is only a UK title. We do have a Sony mod release of this in the US, unfortunately. Welcome to the Dollhouse from 1995 is a Todd Solondz film that is fantastic. It's not Solond's best, but it's one of his more well-known titles. On this one, we got newly filmed interview with Solondz. We got a visual essay by Hannah Strong. Audio commentary by the Colangelos of This Ends at Prom podcast, which is really cool. And then we got, again, limited edition booklet with some writings in there. And Solondz. Do you know any Solondz work? Are you into Solondz at all?
I'm not a big fan. I've only seen, Storytelling and the one that came out before that with Philip Seymour Hoffman. Happiness?
Yes, 1998. Yeah,
it's just not my brand of humor. Or I also saw them at a time where I wasn't exposed to very many movies that had that kind of tone.
It's very bleak.
I wonder if I would enjoy it more now, or if I would think I might think it's funnier now.
Yeah, Happiness is one that has never gotten a really great release, and I really hope that this is a sign of things to come. There's not been a good Solondz release in a while, so yeah, this is at least a little bit promising.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I have not read comments in a while. Eric says they compare it to Pulse. That's quite a statement. I haven't seen Pulse in a long time, and that's getting the trilogy from Pulse is about to get a release from Umbrella that I may pick up. Brian is here. What's going on, Brian? I think you're all accounted for. Josephine, hello. Just watched Penn and Teller get killed, and They Might Be Giants. Interesting. I hope that's the band They Might Be Giants. I love them. Let's see. Oh, wow. Stan Geezy's back. Stan, what's going on, my friend? I love your picture, by the way, on your profile there. He says, taking so many notes. Video Man had pointed out, it's weird because 13 years after the sniper film, one of the most famous serial killers from Sweden started, and he was shooting people like a sniper. Ouch. Interesting. Sarda says they are testing the waters to look for a direction to go. That could be a part of it, for sure. But honestly, I think that Fran has so many different varied tastes that they're probably going to put out a wide variety pretty much forever. I would not be surprised at all. Sarda says, happiness was a one-time watch for me. Terry says, I find Todd Solondz's films are best when in a very specific headspace. I would 100% agree with that. Griff says the cases look like they will be similar to the Criterion style. Not just similar, the exact same case, thankfully. Antoine says, where to buy in Canada? I am willing to bet that those will, if they are not on Unobstructed View already, they will be on Unobstructed View very soon. They are just now starting to show up on retailers in the States that were not partnered with Radiance to begin with. And considering MVD is their partner in the States, MVD has worked before with Unobstructed View, so I am willing to bet you will see that showing up there at least soon. And if not, Diabolic has some of them, and all of the places in the UK that you have imported from before will likely have these as well. Let's go away from Radiance for a moment after we talk about their subscription. So they officially launched their site. This was the first time we even got to see their website. And from their launch email, they wanted to go over the OBI strip that would be removable, and then to let everybody know that they could count on that each of their releases would be mastered from the finest available materials. It will be accompanied by new and archival bonus features with those who made the films and experts on them. There will be interviews, documentaries, commentaries, visual essays, and more. Each and every release is accompanied by an extensive booklet, and all of the sleeves will be reversible, often with original or alternative artwork. First off, great mission statement. I love that they are promising from the get-go that all of them will include all of these. Are you somebody that reads the booklets on these?
Yeah, I do. It definitely depends on who is writing, and also what the movie is. I mean, there's some,
right,
like if there's a booklet for an Argento movie, I mean, I'm definitely going to read everything in it. So yeah, I guess it depends on the release.
I get that. I'm a big fan of those films that have not necessarily like a political message, but they are affected by the real world, and the fact that they will have something in the book that explains the context behind that and how either the world affected the film or how the film affected the world. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that they can go on those. So the contextual booklets are, yeah, I always love those.
Mm-hmm.
Then we wanted to highlight the fact that they are offering a subscription of sorts. They are offering a very limited 50 in the UK and 50 in the US number of chances to buy a 3-year subscription style package to all of their future Radiance limited edition releases. Purchasers of this package will include Blu-rays, exclusive merchandise, and other products, as well as additional benefits, including a tote bag and other items as curated for those package buyers. They will also get access to a private Discord group where they can have direct access to future releases, suggest and discuss title selections, previews of extras in creation, participate in polls, and more in direct discussion with Radiance films themselves. And that is great. The pricing, though. UK price is listed at £1,600, which in US dollars, the moment they put that up, was worth about $1,850-ish in US dollars. Pretty expensive. However, when you break it down, they promised that in year one, let me pull this up just so I'm not speaking out of term here. They they promised that in year one they were going to be putting out, where is it listed here? 2 to 3 releases a month, and in year two, 3 to 4 releases per month, and then in year three it will be 4 or more per month. This will be adjusted possibly due to a box set, but I imagine that then you're still getting at least that number of titles. So on the low end, you are looking at least 108 films for $1,800, which it's expensive. But when you think of it like that, and it's for 3 full years, it's not a terrible deal. And if it was anybody else, I would question it a lot more. But considering this person has such a background and experience in this industry, I do trust it a lot more. What do you think of the pricing there?
Yeah, I could never afford something like
Right.
that. But I don't, and it is free shipping as well, right?
Yes,
For
free
every,
shipping for the entire time.
yeah. So I mean, it's really, I mean, per release, it's not that bad.
I just did the math, and you're looking at about $17 per.
Oh yeah, I mean, like Arrow on their recent sale, like their sale price is $17 per disc, but pretty much
For the
so,
cheapest one, yeah. It's usually
yeah.
around like 20.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's not terrible when you look at it like that, and especially
No,
the free shipping, because you're not paying for anything for 3 years from them, and you're getting gifts like the tote bag and other stuff, plus the Discord access. So it's not terrible. Um,
no. You may have mentioned this, but are they doing standard releases as well, or only limited editions?
that is a great question, and if you look on their website, they did have, I believe. Maybe it was on Twitter that he said it. Fran essentially said that we will do standard releases where possible, but it is not a guaranteed thing. And it does sound like some of them will not be getting standard releases. On top of that, for those that are wondering, especially like me, I'm not a format snob necessarily, but I certainly really enjoy UHD. I've got a great TV. I've got a really good 4K player. I would want some 4K releases, and Fran basically shot down that idea and said for the foreseeable future, he is not planning on any UHD titles.
Huh,
So,
interesting.
yeah. All that to say, one of the big reasons to talk about this is not to sell it, because this sold out on the very first day. Now, granted, there's only 50 slots available, but to sell 50 of them in the first day is incredibly impressive for a brand new label, even if you have somebody like Fran Simeone attached. Now,
Amazing.
it is amazing, and I am shocked that it sold out so quickly, kind of. But before I go, there's a couple of these that we're going to go back to, but we do have a picture about the US subscription here. This one is $1,200. This is less than the UK subscription because there will be less titles per year. And they said for the US, they anticipate 1 to 2 releases a month in the first year, 2 to 3 in the second year, and 3 or more in the third year. Again, this could be adjusted because of a box set release. However, if you're just looking at the minimum for what they're promising here, you're looking at 72 releases. So if you're looking at 1,200 in the US divided by 72 releases, it is almost exactly the exact same price. So for the US, that's pretty decent still. It's less titles, but because they brought it down by a third of the cost, it works out for me.
This might be kind of a dumb question, but since there's going to be fewer titles released in the US, are the numbered spines going to be different?
It's not a Yes, it's not a dumb question at all, and that is one thing that people have been a little off put by Indicator. And obviously, if you get OCD about it, it can be very difficult. But Indicator's odd because they were established in the UK for like 6 years, and then suddenly they were able to make the jump to start selling in the US. but they didn't restart their spines in the US. They just continued from the UK spines. Now, we have already seen that there are some months where there are no releases in the US. It is only in the UK still, and they just skip over those numbers still. I don't see it necessarily as a super big deal, but it is a great question for this. Unfortunately, I don't think that's one that they breached. I don't think that they will change much of anything, especially because it's packaging all coming from the same space. To completely submit a different write-up on that would be, possibly a higher price for them. So I get it. But the crazy thing, this also sold out. I think this one took slightly longer than the UK. It was like a day and a half, but they sold all 100 spots of their subscription in a grand total of like 60 hours. Just astonishing. Brand new label, 60 hours, and they just shocking. I mean, that, let's see, if they I'm going to do some weird math here. If they sold just in the US 50 of them, that's $60,000. And in the UK, that was about $90,000. So in one day, just from the packages, like 150 grand invested into their company right off the bat, which great. Super stoked on that. There we go. They did breach it. Mike says, Fran said that the UK and US spines will be connected. So you will have to buy the UK and US titles if you want all of the spine numbers. And this is a great comment. Physical media is dying, eh? Obviously not. Obviously not. But, I mean, if you can, as a brand new label, get $150,000 investment funds by day 3, literally, just wow. Bravo. That is incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right, we skipped a couple things. We'll go back here. That's enough Radiance for tonight. Any other comments? I'll come back to those for sure. But Fran and Radiance have had a wonderful week. I have heard from some people connected with Radiance that the next wave of titles are going to be very exciting. And just based on who that person is and the kind of films they like, I'm excited to see what comes next. So at least keep them on your radar. A lot to come from them, especially if they're promising 108 different titles over the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Kino Lorber, we got some details on their release of Assassination with Henry Silva. This is coming on the 15th of November. We got a new 4K restoration from the OCN. Really great sounding audio commentary with Howard S. Berger, Steve Mitchell, and Nathaniel Thompson. I always love when Nathaniel Thompson is on these, especially Italian films. We got a theatrical trailer on there. Nathaniel Thompson, you're familiar with him then?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like his commentaries, and I've been following like Mondo Digital for a long time.
Mondo is great. Oh, wow. Stan says, hey, I worked with Henry Silva on a thankfully never released film. I would love to hear about that, Stan. Let's see. So this one is the explosive Euro spy thriller, stars the criminally cool Henry Silva as a man who must die twice in order to live. Time, memory, and fear have no more meaning for Secret Service man John Chandler as he awaits his ultimate fate on death row until he's offered an opportunity for resurrection. By altering his appearance through plastic surgery, John becomes his fictitious long-lost brother, Philip, as part of a subterfuge plot to take down a nefarious crime lord. The directorial debut of Emilio Miraglia, who also did The Night Evelyn Came Out of the Grave and The Red Queen Kills 7 Times, both of those put out previously by Arrow. Assassination also stars Fred Bear and Giallo goddess Evelyn Stewart. Have you seen Assassination?
I've never seen it, but I really love Henry Silva, especially in Italian genre movies. So this is one that I will almost certainly pick up.
Yeah, and I really like Evelyn Stewart as well. She is gorgeous, and this is one I've not seen, but looks and sounds fantastic. I love that they got some decent cover art on the other side of this to go with this pretty decent slipcover. Kino kind of stepping it up here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next up, this is the next thing I wanted to talk about, physical media dying. This is a different sort of announcement than what we normally talk about on here, but Waxwork Records, who has done a lot of specifically like cult type soundtracks on vinyl over the last handful of years, and so much so that they've been able to do subscriptions for the most part until vinyl started to lag on ship times. They've done what they've called spinatures. They've done all kinds of CD releases. They're even streaming most of their stuff. This is really cool. So Waxwork announced that they are opening their very own vinyl record pressing plant in 2023. As you may know, making records isn't easy or quick, which is able to be seen because right now I believe we are backed up like 15 months for vinyl record pressing, which is just insanity.
Yeah.
Demand for vinyl, especially our custom effect offerings that you've come to know, has impacted our independent label. Always approaching things with a DIY mindset, we've made the big decision to dive straight in, and it is truly sink or swim. More news to come. Vinyl. Do you mess with vinyl at all?
Not at all. Not a single
smart man
vinyl record here.
It is an expensive hobby for sure. Vinyl is difficult because they're fragile, obviously, but man, there is something about holding a soundtrack like that in your hands and hearing it played on a turntable the right way. I'm happy for these guys. I really hope that this is a sign of things to come. Earlier this year, I think it was on an episode of Reconnected, we talked about Jack White from the White Stripes, who came out and pleaded with all of the big U.S. record companies and said, we don't have any true pressing plants in the U.S. Why don't you guys make one yourself? We could really do something fantastic here. You know, it's more vinyl is more popular than CDs again, and it is selling incredibly well. So let's do it. And as far as I'm aware, none of them have stepped up. So it is nice to see an indie like this really rise up and say, you know what, fuck it, we'll do it ourselves.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
An indication of physical media dying, like we said. Then we got some details. Kino is releasing Escape from Alcatraz with Clint Eastwood on UHD on November 8th. This is from 1979, and this is probably one of the few Clint Eastwood films that I go, yes, I'm glad we're getting this. This is probably one that I will purchase. I've always been fascinated with Alcatraz. I've been there a few times, been inside. I've got pictures from when I was like 4 years old meeting a prisoner that was in Alcatraz. Incredible. Clint Eastwood. Are you into Eastwood?
I'm not a huge fan. I mean, he's in some movies I love.
Yeah.
But and I actually Escape from Alcatraz, I think, is pretty great. I'm a Don Siegel fan. Yeah, so not a big fan overall, but yeah, this is one that I would like to get.
Nice. Yeah, this looks good, and I'm sure Kino is going to do great with this one. And the cool thing, we do get a new audio commentary, and it's got Steve Mitchell and Nathaniel Thompson.
Nice.
Then, of course, this comes with a Blu-ray disc, and it's got some other features on here. We got a new interview with the screenwriter. We got a new interview with actor Larry Hankin. He has got to be pretty old at this point, so that's pretty cool that they were able to get that. And this is from a 4K scan of the OCN. It doesn't get much better than that.
Cool. Now, was this Don Siegel's final film? Do you know?
Ooh, 79, maybe. Let me take a look. Actually, I still have this open. Let me see. No, he went. He did Rough Cut after in 1980 and Jinxed in 82.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but I mean, pretty close to the end.
I was just thinking if it was his last movie, it would be like a pretty amazing final movie.
Yeah, definitely. John says Nathaniel Thompson on something not cult. I mean, Escape from Alcatraz is kind of still cult. Not exactly. I think Kino, I believe we just talked about them putting out Rough Cut as well. Am I imagining that? I feel like they announced that. Let me see.
Yeah,
that's the what's his name? Burt Reynolds film.
Oh, okay.
And oh nope, that is a Paramount Presents. They just put that out in July. So yeah, lots happening this year with Don Siegel. Next one is one we just talked about, so we will keep going. This is an interesting one. Cauldron is finally teasing their sub-label that they are doing with Jared from Mondo Macabro. Jared was on my channel way early this year. I believe he was the first like true interview I did, other than Justin DeClue last year. And he is able to finally start teasing this new label, which is going to be an Asian-focused sub-label coming from Cauldron soon. And Jared said on Facebook, as some of you may know, I've been working for the last almost 2 years on a side project label with Jesse and Brian from Cauldron Films. It will be focused on, and this is what excites me, the way he words this, trashy Asian action exploitation films, mostly from the 80s and 70s. This page has been updated with the first teaser, and he is talking about the coming soon page on Cauldron. We're hoping to reveal the name of the label, the logo, and the first release in the month of October. So if we zoom in here, because I bet that's a little difficult to see, they say that Japanese film from 1974 is coming, and a Taiwanese film from 1982 is coming. These sound right up my alley. I hope that we are doing some of these like Girls with Guns films, because we do not have many releases of those. And I think that we could get some really good stuff from these guys.
Yeah, these sound like they could be pretty awesome. I love Mondo Macabro. I mean, they are amazing.
Eric, the Asian movie enthusiast, says trashy Asian action exploitation is sweet. Agreed. Absolutely agreed. So yeah, that's exciting. Obviously, we will talk about that more in the future. Just wanted to make sure that you guys are getting eyes on it. And if you want, there is a little more information from Jared in that interview where he originally dropped the tease about the label. So that is linked in this post, and it's on the channel, obviously. So go back and give that a watch. And I'll hint away right now. I'm hoping to get the three of them on for a joint video around when the label gets announced. So hopefully some more to come soon. The Diamond Wizard is coming from Kino, and this is going to be a 3D title. This is from 1954, newly restored by the 3D Film Archive. And here's a better look at that cover image. And this one is going to include the BD3D Polaroid and Polaroid, that's not a word. Polaroid and anaglyphic red and blue 3D with a pair of 3D glasses. And it will also include the 2D version, so you don't have to watch it in 3D. This one is in black and white, and I can't for the life of me remember if I have seen a black and white film in 3D. So I am curious to get this one.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a black and white 3D movie either. And is this like a 3D noir?
Yes.
That's kind of interesting too.
Very. So this is the only Golden Age 3D feature photographed in Great Britain. The Diamond Wizard, also known as The Diamond, packs suspense and surprise into a supremely exciting film noir thriller. While in London trying to nab the crooks who stole $1 million from a U.S. Treasury vault, which $1 million back in that day, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
American federal agent Joe Dennison joins Scotland Yard Inspector McLaren in his search for a missing atomic scientist. They discover that the key to solving both cases may rest with the scientist's daughter and her fascinating diamond. This is co-directed by Dennis O'Keefe, who also starred, and Montgomery Tully. So yeah, I'm certainly interested in this. I love 3D stuff, and I don't think I've ever seen a black and white 3D film. So I'm dying to see what that would look like.
Mm-hmm.
Eric is speculating about the Cauldron titles. Japanese from 1974, a few titles. There is possibly Zero Woman Red Handcuffs, School of the Holy Beast, Hanzo the Razor 3, and Violent Streets. Interesting. I almost feel like School of the Holy Beast sounds familiar.
Yeah.
All right. I will keep those in mind, Eric. Thank you for that. Yeah, this looks great.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Speaking of 3D Film Archive, they are running a Kickstarter right now to restore and preserve the Abbott and Costello Show Season 2 from the original 35 millimeter negatives. You can get a DVD or Blu-ray secured right now, and they always do incredibly great work on their restorations. But you know a lot about Abbott and Costello. How do you feel about this?
Well, I've seen their TV stuff, and it is not up to par with the movies. I'll
Right.
say that. They recycle a lot of material from the movies.
Yeah.
Which is probably pretty common with comedians that started off on vaudeville and then transitioned into movies and then ended up on TV. But yeah, they were I think they kind of peaked with Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and that was kind of, they had already been making movies for almost 10 years at that point.
Right.
And so the TV stuff, I mean, like, my brother and I would watch it with my dad, but I remember us just having a really hard time staying interested in it.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the stuff back then, because there wasn't reruns, they could get away with copying more and not having as much originality. And that's why, like a lot of the noirs, they literally took the exact same script and recast them and gave it a different title because people aren't seeing these in theaters, back to back. It's a few years later, you didn't get to see it at home. So yeah, you probably forgot about it. We can make it past you.
Yeah.
This
sometimes
is
it really
interesting.
works. Sometimes it really works. Well, especially when they remade something in a different genre. Because
Yep.
High Sierra, the Humphrey Bogart movie, was remade with with Joel McCrea as a Western. I can't remember the title, but that's also a really good movie. And I think it's directed. They're both directed by Raoul Walsh, I think.
Interesting.
And I think the Western remake comes with the High Sierra Criterion release.
Oh, okay. That's probably why I know about it then.
Yeah, I can't recall the title.
I Died 1,000 Times.
Okay.
It is a scene-by-scene remake directed by Stuart Heisler from 1955. Does that sound right?
Oh. No,
Or
maybe
is that
I'm
a different title? Interesting.
Yeah, maybe I'm confusing it with something else. Let's see.
Either way. Sarda says Laurel and Hardy are a much better duo. Honestly, I'd agree. I think that they're more consistent for sure. Abbott and Costello probably has higher highs for me, but I think Abbott and Costello had much lower lows.
Oh, yeah. Just terrible.
Hilton says The Mask from 61 was a black and white 3D. Interesting. Is there a 3D release of that, Hilton? I would certainly be interested in seeing that.
Creature from the Black Lagoon wasn't 3D, was it?
I think it. I think there were some releases that made it into a 3D. I've certainly never seen the 3D version of it.
Yeah, me neither.
Interesting. Let's see. Ragnar says the Three Stooges, or should I say the five, or better than both of them. Yeah, I get that. I grew up more on the Three Stooges myself, actually. Hard when we're just talking about duos, though. Speaking of Criterion, you just brought them up. We got a pretty big slate of announcements, and this literally just happened today. This is the only one I think that we were aware was coming. This got released in a magazine article or an interview or something like that. Cooley High from 1975 is coming. This is getting a new 4K digital transfer. No 4K disc, just Blu-ray on this one, but it's got a slate of extras. And there was another release of this. I think it was on Olive, and that had no extras. So this is going to be a much better release of this film. Have you seen Cooley High?
No, I've never seen it.
This is one I think I saw years ago. I don't remember a whole lot about it. We got a new conversation with Schultz and the film scholar Raquel J. Gates. There's a program on the making of a panel discussion from the 2019 tribute. And that is it on this one. But yeah, this is as far as I remember, a pretty decent movie. Dude even says Cooley High gets the respect it deserves. That all of release was a disappointment for such an important movie. And yeah, it's got nice cover art. I see this one doing well for them. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Damien says Colorado Territory is the remake of High Sierra.
That's it.
Got it. Man, when you Google High Sierra remake, that name doesn't even come up until halfway down the page.
Another example of that is Michael Curtiz made To Have and Have Not, and then he made the remake with John Garfield like 5 years later. I can't remember what that movie's called either, but the remake is on the Criterion Collection.
Nice. I always love when people, I don't know why, maybe I shouldn't say I always love. I'm strangely fascinated when people remake their own films, or at least are involved in the remake as well. Like, we're going to talk about Haneke in just a moment, but the fact that he did Funny Games and then redid it in English later, and they're both great films. That one especially, it's essentially the exact same movie, but it's always interesting. Cooley High is not in 4K, Video Man, and it's coming on Blu-ray, but it is going to be a great looking transfer, I'm sure. All right, so Haneke just said this. We are getting a trilogy of films that includes The Seventh Continent, Benny's Video, and 71 fragments of a chronology of chance. These are from 89, 92, and 94, and this is going to be a depressing trilogy. I have never seen any of these three films. This is one that I'm probably going to get fairly quickly. I do wish we got some better cover art on this, but it kind of fits the tone of it, so I get it. Haneke, are you familiar with Haneke at all?
Yeah, I haven't seen a ton of his movies, but I remember really enjoying. Enjoying maybe not the right word. I remember appreciating. Is it called Time of the Wolf?
That does sound right. Yeah.
Hour of the Wolf is Bergman. Is it called? I think it's called Time of the Wolf. I remember liking that. What's the? Is it Cash or Cachet?
Yeah, I think it's pronounced Cachet.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. And he did The White Ribbon.
Yes, the Time of the Wolf and Cachet came out right back to back, 2003 and 2005.
Yeah, I remember thinking Time of the Wolf was my favorite of what I've seen of his filmography, but I haven't seen a ton of his stuff.
Yeah, this is another one that you kind of have to be in a mood and ready for what you're going into. He's got a very unique style, unique voice, and one that I really hope that people take the time to look into if you haven't. Funny Games obviously is the biggest title for him. Most people have seen one of the two versions, and I originally, I think, saw the US version because I adore Tim Roth and Naomi Watts, so it was a dream film for me. Just really well done. And then Video Man says he did Funny Games US in the exact same way as the original because that was just the only way the movie was going to be made. He hates remakes, but I'm glad he did it because it brought an entire new audience to him, I'm sure. Stan says both versions are brilliant and disturbing.
You know what's funny is I lived in LA for almost 4 years, and my friend that I moved out there with, we watched the original Funny Games because he was auditioning for the remake, and he auditioned for the role that went to I think, was it Michael Pitt was in that movie, right?
Yes, I believe so.
But yeah, that was how I originally even heard about Funny Games, was when my friend was auditioning for it.
Yes, that is Michael Pitt. Man, and it's such a tiny cast. There are exactly 10 people in that entire film. That's fantastic. All right. So that is a trilogy of films coming. And then we have another trilogy of films. This one is by Mai Zetterling, includes Loving Couples from 64, Night Games from 66, and The Girls from 68. A fearlessly transgressive, long overlooked pioneer of feminist cinema, Swedish actor turned director Mai Zetterling ruffled the feathers of the patriarchal establishment with a string of bracingly modern, sexually frank, and the turbulent state of 20th century Europe. I skipped a line there. Sexually frank and politically incendiary films focused on female agency. That's how I was supposed to read. And the turbulent state of 20th century Europe. Her peerless ability to render subjective psychological states with startling immediacy is on display in A Loving Couples, Night Games, and The Girls, three provocative, taboo-shattering works from the 60s featuring some of Swedish cinema's most iconic stars. I myself am not familiar with any of Mai Zetterling's work. Are you?
No, me neither.
Yeah, this is a huge blind spot. The Swedish cinema and a lot of the Scandinavian cinema just seem to go way beyond what I was seeing for quite some time. And I am certainly interested in seeing these. We got new 2K digital restorations, new interviews with author Alicia Malone. We got a 1989 documentary on the director and a 1996 documentary reuniting the Girls actors, which is pretty dang cool. And some other stuff on here. This looks like a decent trilogy. They kind of surprised me with a pretty big December.
Yeah, Alicia Malone is someone who I like. I think she does she introduces movies on Turner Classic Movies.
Yes, I believe so. Video Man says, I saw the Ingmar Bergman documentary where the reporter talked about Mai Zetterling. They said she was a nervous psychopath. Oh, man. Yeah, this sounds great. December for Criterion is usually fairly slow, but to release 2 3-packs is kind of impressive.
Yeah.
And then they are putting out the Velvet Underground as well. This is from 2021. And this is done by Todd Haynes. And this is a new 4K digital master approved by the director. We got an audio commentary, outtakes of interviews. And this is all about the Velvet Underground, the band. And I am dying to see this, actually. I've not seen this. Music. Are you into anything like the Velvet Underground or big into music at all?
I used to be into the Velvet Underground. I haven't listened to them in a long time. But yeah, I'm a pretty big music guy. I tend to go a little more aggressive. Like, I like metal and rock. But I've heard this documentary is awesome though, and I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really good. I'm really digging the cover on this. I'm curious to see what this is going to look like on the shelf. But again, a big December. And I think the fact that they're doing 2 trilogies in December sort of makes up for the fact that we did not get any box sets from Criterion for the entirety of 2022, which compared to the last few years, that is pretty surprising. Not that they have to release anything, but usually they do at least one. And there's been a rumored Kurosawa box set for the last handful of years, and we still don't have that. So it is nice to see a big December. And I believe in December they normally have one of their flash sales. So that would be a great time to get some of these. Next up, we are getting some details on the November 22nd release of the 3rd season of Night Gallery from Kino Lorber. And basically all you need to know is that there are new commentaries on, I believe, every single episode. This takes forever to scroll because there is so much coming in this set. Again, Kino has shown so much respect to these 3 seasons. All of these are getting, I think, new 2K scans of the inner positives for the first time being released in HD anywhere. And there are people involved in this like Kim Newman, Stephen Jones, Guillermo del Toro. We got comments by Rod Serling. We got Craig Beam, Amanda Reyes, Tim Lucas, again, Scott Skelton, Jim Benson. There are so many people involved in this, and some of these have multiple commentaries for an episode of TV. I'm so impressed with these. Yeah. Have you ever seen Night Gallery or any of the episodes at all?
I've only seen the. I think Spielberg directed 1 or 2 episodes of Night Gallery.
That sounds right.
Or maybe was there a Night Gallery like TV, like like a TV anthology movie that he directed part of?
Possibly.
I can't remember, but yeah, whichever one Spielberg was involved with. But I love the Twilight Zone.
He did 2 episodes. He did Make Me Laugh, Clean Kills, and Other Trophies. And then he also did the pilot, or one of the segment in the pilot.
Okay.
Interesting. I don't think I remembered that.
Yeah, so I've only seen the ones that he was involved with, but I love Rod Serling. Well, I love the Twilight Zone.
Right.
So I would like to get these at some point. I don't own any. I'm looking. I have Twin Peaks, the complete series, and Scooby Doo. That's all the TV that I have.
2 greats though.
Yeah.
I've got quite a few, and their first 2 seasons that they put out of this, amazing. I mean, the love and care that they've shown into the series, and this is the 3rd and final season, so this is going to be it for these. It is astonishing. They, again, the fact that some of these episodes have multiple commentaries, that is amazing to see.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is, what year was this? This is 50 years old, and we are getting multiple commentaries of a TV show. That really speaks to the legacy of something like this.
Yeah, and I really like Amanda Reyes too. She's a guest on the Hysteria Continues podcast sometimes. Yep. And I always love her episodes. She's really good.
One thing to point out that I did not mention, they have on each of these seasons, they've included this featurette here called The Syndication Conundrum. It is a look at the show's troubled second life in reruns, and it's a featurette. This one is by Craig Beam. I think he did all 3, but it is such a cool idea that we are looking at the way that this has affected things over the years, and just, yeah, the reason I love physical media, something like this would never happen for streaming, ever.
Yeah, that's true.
Good stuff. Next up, we got like a handful of small titles left in Casablanca. So we'll talk about this. Allegoria from Shudder and RLJE is coming out soon. This is the film that was directed by Spider One, the brother of Rob Zombie. This is coming November 15th, and I believe it's still on Shudder, so if you're into it, you can see it there. I've heard it's pretty bad, but yeah.
I'm not surprised.
When I went to California in June, one of the guys that I was hanging out with, he came up to me after we had got separated for a little while. He's like, did you see who was over by the food? And I was like, what do you mean who? He's like, Spider One. I was like, who the fuck is Spider One? I had no idea who he was by name. And he's like, dude, that's Rob Zombie's brother. I was like, all right. I had no idea that he used to be in White Zombie. I just was never paying attention to White Zombie that closely, I guess.
Yeah, and he was in Power Man 5000. And actually, an apartment I lived at in LA, the guy across the hall from us was a guitarist for Power Man 5000.
Wow, small world. That's awesome. John says it is an anthology of sorts. Interesting. I didn't know it was an anthology. Man, you're going to make me watch it now. I don't know why. I love anthologies. Dang it. Next up, this is one of the bigger ones. We are getting Earth Girls Are Easy as part of the next Vestron video release from Lionsgate and Vestron. This is, of course, from 88 with a really great cast. Gina Davis, Jim Carrey, Damon Wayans, Jeff Goldblum, and Julie Brown. We got some good stuff on here. We got an audio commentary with Julie Brown, some interviews with the director with Julie Brown as well, interview with the DP, Oliver Stapleton, and the production designer, Dennis Gassner, interview with the makeup supervisor, some featurettes, and then a whole bunch of vintage stuff. And it seems like that they are keeping up with their recent prices. I think that the MSRP on this one is very low again, so I would not be surprised if this one was released at like $13, like the other recent Vestron titles. The only thing that bothers me is since they started their price drop, they have not had great scans. So I really hope that we get a decent release for this, because they could really bungle this. Like Little Monsters, their release for that, I was super excited for, and then it kind of looked awful. And Lionsgate owns the rights to all of these. You would think that they would try to restore it at least. And unfortunately, they've not looked great recently. Are you a Vestron fan at all? Do you have any of their stuff?
I don't have any of their releases, actually.
They are odd because they started very expensive. Like their first, Maximum Overdrive, for example, like never goes on sale for less than like $27, and
Oh, wow.
it's a good release, but it's
Mhm.
not a $27 release. And then by the next title or the title after Maximum Overdrive, suddenly they were available for like $12 on launch day, which was so different compared to everything before that. And the people were wondering, why are they so expensive when you own the rights? You don't have to pay for a license. So yeah, this has been an odd line, to say the least. Unfortunately, you can see the difference after the price drop. I feel like the restoration titles were the ones that got the heavier price tag, and the new ones, they just said, release the scan that we have, which they're not great.
Are they releasing Vampire's Kiss, or did that already come out?
That is MVD Rewind.
Oh, okay.
And I do, either that is about to come out or it did just come out. One of the two. Next up, if you were interested in the Halo TV show, the first season is coming out in 4K on November 15th. This is one that seemed to get some middling reviews. It is going to get a Steelbook version and a standard version, and then a Blu-ray release. There are going to be 5 hours of special features, so if you really like the show, might be a reason to pick up. Did you watch this one at all? I did not.
No, I haven't seen it. I watch. It's rare that I watch a TV series.
My wife and I, we have a couple we stay up to date on, but outside of that, hardly anything.
I think the last series I finished was Hannibal.
All right, that's a good series too.
It is very good. Oh, and Channel Zero. That came out after Hannibal, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, I like Channel Zero too.
I've not seen that one. I've heard good things though.
Oh, you should check it out. It's
interesting.
It's really cool.
I may have to then. Next up, The Invitation. This was just in theaters and coming out on October 25th from Sony. This is going to have an unrated and theatrical version release. Not any special features that I've seen for this one yet. But I've heard some kind of meh things about this one. I was interested at first. This one to me looked a lot like Ready or Not, I believe was the title. The Samara Weaving film looked very similar.
Yeah, maybe a little more serious of a tone, but yeah, I can
certainly.
But yeah, it definitely story-wise seems similar.
Yeah. Next up, a Claire Denis film. We are getting Both Sides of the Blade. This is coming from IFC Films, and this is a 2022 film with Juliette Binoche. I've not seen this. I've not watched a Claire Denis film in a long time, but I'm glad we're getting it for sure. Are you a Claire Denis fan at all?
I am. I really enjoyed the sci-fi movie with Mia Goth and the guy who plays Batman, who I can't remember his name.
High Life.
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
Yeah, Life. Yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool movie.
High Life is interesting. I think Flip, on the episode we did with Jeremy on the other channel, we talked about the best A24 films. I think Flip said that was his favorite. High Life is good. I love Pattinson. Claire Denis is interesting for sure. Have you seen this one yet?
No, I haven't seen it. And he's the lead actor. He's the guy from Titan or whatever, right?
Oh.
Does that look like him?
Yes, that does look like him. Let me see. Both Sides of the
I definitely love Juliette Binoche, and she continues to work with great directors and make interesting stuff.
This is either not listed on IMDb or listed under a different title.
Huh.
She only has. Oh wow, they have it listed under Fire on IMDb. Interesting. I believe the guy's name is Vincent Linden, and yeah, that is him. Interesting. Yeah, I'd certainly want to see that. Then he was great in that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Going next, some Hong Sang-soo. We are getting In Front of Your Face from 2021. This is coming from Cinema Guild, which I got to be honest, I have never heard of Cinema Guild, I don't think. And I wanted to look into them, so I will open that up in another tab just in case. They are, let's see, not a lot listed here. They've got a whole bunch of acquisitions listed, though. I need to look into them for sure. This one is after years of living abroad, former actress Sangok is back in Seoul, staying with her sister. I'm not going to be able to say these names, so I'll let that go. In her high-rise apartment, the siblings sleep late, have breakfast in a cafe, and visit a restaurant owned by their son. But as the details of the day accrue, including a spill on her blouse and encounter at her childhood home, it becomes clear that there's much she is not revealing, and these mysterious circumstances have something to do with her decision to meet with film director Jae-won to discuss her return to acting. This is the first role for Hong. Lee, a prominent theater and screen actress in South Korea, makes a captivating return to the big screen. Interesting. Hong Sang-soo, have you seen any of Hong Sang-soo's films?
I've seen one, like it's called like On the Beach at Midnight or something like that.
I think so. I think that just was put out by Grasshopper, if I remember right.
Yeah, the kind of minimalist cinema is really tough for me to get into. And in the copy, they highlight that she a spill on her blouse.
Yeah.
If that
it ruins her day, yeah.
If that's where the conflict peaks, I don't know if I'm interested.
Totally get that. Let's see. Asian movie enthusiast says their recent movies tend to be kind of the same thing, but they're usually good. So yeah, that's a plus. Yeah, good director. I get how they could be samey. All right, here's a big one. 4K Casablanca from 1942. Just a little American film nobody's heard of. Brand new 4K 16-bit restoration of the film from this year. Newly restored original mono track, HDR presentation of the film, commentary from Roger Ebert, commentary from Rudy Belmer, and I don't think we're getting anything new on this. I didn't see anything earlier. No, all of this is very old, but thankfully they are including most of the archival features that we've seen from past releases. This is a big one for you, right?
Oh, yes. Yes, this is probably like a top 20 movie for me. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, this is a big deal. This one's been speculated for a while as coming. The UK is getting one of their big fancy Studio Canal limited edition box sets for this with the art cards and everything crazy. I believe in the US it is just going to be a regular 4K release standard. Sardis is right. He says everybody has this already in some format. Unfortunately, I do think that with the HDR, this will probably look incredible in 4K.
Yeah,
and
this is its first. Go ahead. Is this the first time it's been on? It doesn't have any other 4K releases, though, does it?
Nope. No. This is the very first year, and I don't think I have this. I think I used to have a decent DVD, and I think that when I moved to Missouri, I got rid of that one, and I don't think I ever picked it up on Blu-ray yet. So this will be perfect for this.
Nice. Yeah, I have the Blu-ray, but yeah, this is one that I will get the 4K of for sure.
Yeah, the photography in this one is going to make, especially the dark blacks in some of those scenes are going to look remarkable.
Yeah, I've actually never seen a black and white movie on 4K yet.
Whoo! Okay, so Video Manon's comment, he says, for me, all the black and white movies must be owned on 4K. I love black and white shot on 35 or 16 on 4K, and I 100% agree. So if you get a really good restoration of a black and white film on UHD, it is a remarkable difference on 4K. And that was one of the things that originally made me go, holy shit, this format is definitely the way I want to be leaning. Yes, the biggest thing is if you get a good HDR pass on a black and white film, the detail that still lives in those really dark shadows is what brings this to the forefront of essentially seeing it in the theater. And it's not been able to be seen like this in home video ever. So to see something like It's a Wonderful Life on 4K, it is, again, like you've never seen it before. It is astonishing.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to checking it out.
One or three more left, I think. Again, this is going to be one that is going to be touchy for me. Full Moon has announced that they are putting out Puppet Master 3, Toulon's Revenge on 4K. This is such an odd decision. I don't even know where to start here. We're not getting any new features. It's Full Moon, and we have not seen any of their 4Ks yet. And this is, I think, their third one they've announced. And they're putting out the third Puppet Master, and not even the first one.
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you feel about Full Moon?
I can't say I'm a fan. Now Full Moon is releasing a Sergio Martino movie.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that one in 10 seconds.
Yeah, so that I'm looking forward to discussing. But yeah, Puppet Master, just not my thing.
Especially Puppet Master 3. Okay, so let's get into the good stuff then. So on January 24th, Full Moon is putting out Scorpion with Two Tails. This is from Sergio Martino. And the cool thing here, this was originally shot as an 8-part horror miniseries for Italian television. This is a 1982 horror mystery, and it was later cut down to feature length and released theatrically in various European markets. The movie hasn't been properly available in North America on Blu-ray or DVD until this release. It tells the story of a young woman who is having gruesome dreams of ancient sacrificial rites. When her husband is murdered in the same ritualistic way, she begins to suspect that someone or something is targeting her, leading her deep into a nightmarish mystery involving death, smuggling, and reincarnation. The cool thing, Fabio Frizzi is the one that did the score on this one. It's stylish and bizarre chiller, and has John Saxon in a key role, and some other good Italian people in it. But I am curious. This one, I've not seen either version, the 8-hour version, which, first of all, that's a lot. But
Yeah.
second of all, to cut an 8-hour version down to a feature-length film that is only, I think it's like 89 minutes or 91 minutes, something like that. I am curious how they were able to pull that off and if it still makes sense.
Well, with some Italian movies, it wouldn't be surprising to find out it was originally 8 hours and it was cut
Right.
down to an hour and 40 minutes.
Well, and either way, they don't make sense in a lot of those
Yeah.
cases.
But yeah, I'm a Martino fan. I will definitely pick this up. Now, I haven't seen any Full Moon Blu-ray releases. Like, how are the transfers?
Sadly, this is one that it really depends on the film, because some of them are great and shocking how good it looks. Some of them are shockingly bad. Puppet Master, where we just talked about the third one coming in 4K. The first Puppet Master film looks awful on Blu-ray. It is an awful release. It looks terrible. And I really hope if they're putting out the third one on 4K, the first one really needs to be redone. And it's something that it's Charles Band. I don't know. There's so much behind that company that you could really go so many different ways on the complaint side, but I don't know. Yeah, Full Moon is very iffy depending on the title you're talking about. But Martino's great. And I bet this is shot beautifully. This is an 82 film, so it's a little later. But I'm willing to bet that this is going to be at least a decent Full Moon release.
Are there any special features, or do they usually just the movie?
They say bonus features include trailers and rare deleted scenes.
Oh, okay.
So probably not very much. Video Manon, I do not think this is a sequel to The Case of the Scorpion's Tail. Just gotta love those Italian titles.
Oh, they're the master of titles. I mean, they're so good.
All right. I haven't looked at comments in a few. Let's look at this. Ragnar says, I may be on an island with this one, but never seen Casablanca. I have no interest in it. No, I get that. I completely get that. Let's see. Raging Bull and Citizen Kane, part of my top 5 releases on 4K. I would agree that they look great. I don't know that they would make my top 5, but they both look good. Terry says maybe elements have something to do with Puppet Master 1 not coming. That could be, but I don't know. Charles Band, he probably still has them somewhere. Oh, look at that. Dude even says the first Puppet Master was the crappiest looking one on Blu-ray. Yes, I agree, which is sad. Ragnar's asking, is it true that you can't really utilize 4K unless your monitor's at least 57 inches or bigger? I don't think that is exact. That seems very specific on the size. I think that you will see more detail the bigger the screen is. But I mean, even smaller screens like phones have 4K, technically 4K on the screens. So yeah, you can certainly utilize it. You will mostly be benefited though if you have a really high quality panel and if you are getting the right size TV for the room that you're in. Let's see. Dude says the End of the World looked like a VHS tape. It was horrible, but Trancers Blue looked great. And yeah, they are like a spectrum of Full Moon titles. It is so odd. Stan Geezy says Casablanca may just be the most overrated film ever. It is probably up there. It is certainly good, but it's I don't understand the people holding up on the highest end of every list. Like Citizen Kane, I don't know how that has been at the list, the top of AFI or whatever for decades.
Yeah, Citizen Kane, I feel like the first half is amazing, and then it kind of the second half drags a little bit, but this Casablanca hate speech has got to stop. I mean, overrated. Ridiculous.
Couple more left. Coming on the 24th of November in Germany and France, they are getting a nice looking steelbook for Night of the Living Dead from '68. George A. Romero's one of his best films, obviously. This is a pretty nice looking steelbook, in my opinion. I like the design of the cover here.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is really good art. If you go to this one that says Shop Exclusive Special Edition, they've got a handful of fancy little extras that come with it. I think there's some art cards, but probably going to be the same release as the Criterion, which neither one is going to get HDR, which is really sad for a title like this. I think that it could have really benefited from a nice HDR scan or
and
HDR pass.
Criterion they have a Blu-ray and a 4K of this, right? Or did they announce 4K?
The 4K is coming still, yes.
Okay.
I think that is an October title, if I remember right.
Gotcha. Oh, and Lost Highways October too, so that could be.
Yeah, and so is Arsenic and Old Lace.
Oh, okay, cool.
Big month. Video Man says, first time I see Night of the Living Dead kind of sexualized, or is it just my brain seeing things? I don't see that as sexualized. I see that as a direct rip from one of the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
One more, I think. Another classic, 1942's Holiday Inn with Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire. Coming to 4K, this gets a new restoration of the film, HDR, and we got an audio commentary by Ken Barnes, including archival audio comments from Fred Astaire, Bing Crosby, and John Scott Trotter. We got a whole bunch of featurettes. I do think all of these are archival, nothing new on here, but this is a pretty surprising Christmas 4K, in my opinion. A lot of the other ones that got announced, like Elf and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, those were all to be expected. Those are going to be big sellers. But this coming from Universal, pretty surprising. Holiday Inn, is that a Bing Crosby that you're familiar with?
No, I know the title. I don't think I've seen the movie, but I am a Fred Astaire fan. I love musicals. I'm a pretty big musical fan, but it is so weird what movies come out on 4K sometimes, because like Holiday Inn is coming out and we're still waiting on, now this is a completely different era, so there's no comparison here, but like there's no 4K for Seven, and that is crazy to me. I keep hoping that's one that's going to be announced, but
it has to be. I would love to see that and Zodiac get announced.
Well, Zodiac can't be like up-res to 4K because of how it was shot, right?
Let's see. I was not thinking of that. Oh, that was 2007. Yeah, that might be true. How did he shoot that one? Let me see.
It was digital. I think it was on the Red camera or something like that.
Okay.
But I think digital movies from that era can't be
not properly. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there is digital intermediate 2K master. Got it. Yeah, probably not. Printed film format. There's a 35 millimeter anamorphic. Oh no, this says negative format, 35 millimeter, and uncompressed digital. Wait, huh? So he used two different kinds. Huh. I'll have to look into that. This is not for a live show. Yeah, I would agree with that. Seven is a remarkable film. One of the ones that really got me to love those types of films for sure. I think it's one of the better, like almost like police procedural and really diving into an investigation. Yeah, iconic ending. How do we not have it yet? But at the same time, I mean, we don't even have a Blu-ray of Panic Room yet. So
yeah.
Time will
tell.
And
also, Howard Shore's score is amazing. Like the best use of extended single notes. I mean, it is just so effective.
Absolutely. Let's go over a handful of things that are coming out next week, just in case people have missed those. Speaking of 4K, some pretty big titles: Poltergeist, Lost Boys, and then Crawl. I loved Crawl, but it really doesn't stick out with this top line here as fitting in right there. Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, we'll just pretend that doesn't exist. Moving down, we got the 33 version of King Kong coming from Warner Archive finally. And a lot of these, by the way, are already out at like Orbit. They're already shipping them. So if people are into these, keep an eye out because they are already out in the wild. We got Ace High coming from Kino next week. Again, that's another one that's already shipped. We got some Mondo Macabro stuff that is already working on being shipped. Old Henry in 4K from Shout Factory, that is already being shipped as well. Outer Limits from Kino. Kamen Rider coming from who was that one? Discotheque, I think. Orders to Kill from Indicator. Handful of others. Cursed Films coming from Shudder. The Reef Stocked. Dream Child is one that I'm looking forward to getting from Kino. That's the one that had the Jim Henson company attached to it, the Creature Shop.
Huh. I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, this is one. Let me pull this up real quick. This got announced semi-recently, and this says, exploring the somewhat darker and more mysterious side of the Lewis Carroll's classic book, the movie follows Alice Liddell as an old woman who is haunted by the characters she was once so amused by. As she thinks back on it, she starts to see a relationship with the shy author and professor in a new way and realizes the vast change between the young Alice and the old.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah, certainly an interesting take for sure. All right, that is what got announced this week, what's coming out next week. And one of the things we really wanted to talk about is shared experiences with cinema. Why don't you share what brought this topic to my mind and inspired that?
All right, so I had what I would call like a perfect rewatch recently. I hadn't seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind in maybe 4 or 5 years. I mean, it's one of my favorite movies. It's like a top 5 Spielberg for me.
Yep.
And I had some time at my house alone. My wife and kids were gone, and they were going to be gone for about 3 or 4 hours. And I was going to have a Fulci double feature. But Fulci when the sun is up is just not right.
True.
Spielberg when the sun is out makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, get that Amblin feel going through your veins. Makes sense.
Yeah, so I watched Close Encounters, and it was just the most it had ever affected me. In particular, like these people who, see these UFOs and the connection that they make, which has like negative consequences, but seeing the Richard Dreyfuss and I can't remember the name of the actress who also sees the UFO, but the way they connect over their shared experience just made me think about kind of like connections I've made in theatrical experiences, like talking to people that weren't friends of mine.
Yeah.
I mean, like one night I went to the New Beverly, and there was a double feature that had both movies had Roberta Collins, who I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she's in, I think, The Big Bird Cage. She's in Death Race 2000.
Okay.
And she's one of my favorite B-movie actresses from the 70s. I think of her as being like a B-movie Charlize Theron.
Nice.
And Sid Haig was there talking about her because she had just died.
Oh, wow.
And I had no idea going into the showing that she had died. And me and this other guy talked about her for forever after this double feature was over.
Yeah.
And he's someone who I never spoke to again, but I'll never forget that night. And yeah, seeing the people connect through, witnessing these UFOs just made me think about how impactful it can be to share, these experiences with an audience.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, obviously it's probably impossible, but I would love to hear if the person you had that conversation with really had it affect them the same way.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Other than that night, what would you say is another theater experience that you felt like that same sort of like, for people familiar with it, I believe one of the terms is frisson or Frisian, one of the two. I don't know how it's pronounced, but basically it's like what gives us goosebumps, where you're in something, and either the aura of the environment you're in, or just the way that it affects you personally. It really brings up this this emotional undertone in yourself that you've got that connection with it.
Well, I have a few. One is I saw an early screening of Children of Men at the DGA theater with Alfonso Cuarón there.
Wow.
And I knew nothing about the movie going into it. And you could just feel the entire audience was like, are you guys looking at what I'm looking at? This is unreal. And I was there with a friend, and it was another situation where after the movie was over, we were just talking to people we didn't know, and we were just blown away. I mean, how can you not be? Especially going in knowing absolutely nothing.
Yep.
And then another one is actually Pineapple Express. Completely different. But I felt like the entire theater could have gone to the same bar together afterwards
Nice.
and had an amazing night. But it just seemed like everyone was on the same page. Everyone was like, the laughter was just so infectious. All the jokes were landing. It was kind of like a perfect comedy screening.
Nice. Yeah, having that audience that fits the film is so important for enjoying some of those theater experiences. I've talked about this poor one before, but when I first saw Hereditary in the
Mm.
theater, it was a group of people that were not prepared. I mean, none of us were prepared for a film like that, but it
Yeah.
was people, they treat a film like that where they're so scared that they kind of just they lose their mind a little bit, and it comes across as almost like nervous laughter, and Hereditary doesn't do well with that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of ruined that one for me, and I really looked forward for the Blu-ray release, and I've appreciated that one so much more at home. But man, I really wish that first screening had something a little more special, because it's such a great movie. But man, Children of Men, I can't imagine the connection with that, especially having the director there. That is a magical movie to see anytime, and it's one of those where the impact of the filmmaking itself that you can feel scene to scene is so powerful. And not to mention,
Mhm.
the story itself is something that it's out of reach, but also like it's fairly feasible, and it's something that it's scary to a point that is a little too real sometimes. But the way that humanity can feel depraved in that movie is just incredible.
Yeah. Now, there are some movies, like some experiences where the audience was divided, and that's a reason that the experience was impactful. Like I saw The Hills Have Eyes remake,
Mm.
and there was a group of people there who were like making fun of the movie and were being really annoying. And then, of course, there's a pretty upsetting, disturbing scene like 35 minutes in.
Yep.
The rest of that screening was completely silent. And I think about 5 people walked out.
Wow.
And that's probably, contributed to the silence. But I could tell people were like, all right, we're going to go and make fun of this horror movie. And then they, obviously just had no idea what was coming.
Yep. That's a fascinating movie too.
Mm-hmm.
I love that accidentally, I believe you've brought up 2 or 3 movies that I've talked about with my mom in the last couple weeks, surprisingly. The Hills Have Eyes is one of them, but Children of Men was the second one. And The Hills Have Eyes, she brought up that she's only ever seen the remake. And I appreciate that so much more than the Craven version. But man, there's so many different takes that you could take with that. I guess franchise is the right way to say it, which feels weird about The Hills Have Eyes. I believe there's 5 films associated with The Hills Have Eyes at this
Oh,
point.
wow.
Yeah, there's the original one, the weird sequel to the original one, which has like the dog flashbacks.
Yeah.
There's I think it's an in name only sequel, The Hills Have Eyes 3 Mind Ripper, and
Oh, I
then
haven't heard of that one.
yeah, I think Code. Let me see. I think Code Red put it out. You know what? There it is, right there. Wow, yeah, it is called Mind Ripper. Lance Hendrickson and Giovanni Ribisi.
Wow.
And then the remake, and I believe there's a sequel to the remake as well. But yeah, The Hills Have Eyes is such a weird sequence of films overall.
Yeah, I saw the original, not the original. I saw the remake in theaters like 2 or 3 times, and I think it was because like that first experience was just the way it affected the audience just really stayed with me. And I also, I think it's a really, like, I mean, it's probably one of my, from that era, I can't think of a horror remake that I enjoy more.
Yeah, I mean, it's easily top 5 remakes overall for me, for
Yeah.
sure. It is up there with like I really enjoyed the Jessica Biel Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake.
Mhm.
it just came out at the perfect time for me, and she's hot as hell, so that helped. But yeah, that one and The Hills Have Eyes, and then obviously if you count The Thing as a remake, it's great. The Fly is perfect, but yeah, there's some great ones for sure from back then. So yeah, shared experiences. The fact that an audience can make or break a film, the fact that we can make connections through some of these films, it is something so like I hate to reuse the word after I just said it a minute ago, but it can be magical, legitimately. And that the fact that you can make a connection over a film at the New Beverly and talk to somebody that you'll never see again for hours and think about it a decade later is astonishing. And I love the community for things like that. And that's why like the Discord that we have as part of this is so important to me, because some of these conversations I will literally never forget that have already been that impactful for me. And I just appreciate everybody that's coming here, sharing their thoughts on film and analyzing in ways that we don't think to analyze, and just lift each other up and support and have this hobby be a big part of our life. So
yeah, no, I've really enjoyed like being involved in the Discord. I mean, I get movie recommendations, and yeah, and everybody's really cool and nice. Like if I post something that I love, nobody's like, oh well, that movie was trash.
right.
It's people are respectful.
Unless it's talking about food for thought's taste. Yeah.
Which yeah, his some of his takes are really, really something. I mean, I appreciate them now, but him saying he likes the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre and thinks the original is garbage,
yeah,
is pretty mind-blowing. I mean, the original is a top 5 movie for me. Absolutely love it. And I haven't seen it's a Netflix movie, right? The new Chainsaw Man. Yeah. There's something I hope this might be pretentious, but there's something about Netflix originals that I just cannot get myself interested in them.
Well, and there is a very interesting thing that some people have, like there's a couple articles that have been posted about it. Netflix has a requirement for it to fit on their platform for the films that they are either funding or producing, or their originals, like their TV stuff. They do this a lot. They have requirements for what types of cameras to use, how to shoot it. They use a lot of the same resources, so they end up looking sort of samey. They've got a lot of the same color palettes. They've got this weird washed out thing that happens in the background on some of the shots, and they all just look sort of like glossed over in a lot of situations when they really don't need to. And so because of that, yeah, if you don't like the way that looks, you're never going to like a Netflix original film or a TV show, because it's going to be a lot of the same.
They're all the same aspect ratio, right?
I believe so, yes. And that is one of the requirements.
Yeah, I can't even remember the last well, probably Marriage Story, or what's the Scorsese movie? I can't think of
The Irishman.
Irishman, yeah. That's probably the last one I saw.
And for those, I mean, obviously some of the Netflix originals, they were acquired afterwards, and those aren't going to have the exact same requirements. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of those were possibly, created and then Netflix paid for the distribution rights on those.
Oh, okay.
Could be. I'm hoping that the Knives Out sequels don't go down that route, because I know they paid for them, but Rian Johnson certainly wants those in theaters, so I don't want that same nasty, washed out Netflix look in the theater. That'd be awful.
It is funny, like the Netflix thing, because I know Martin Scorsese, somebody was interviewing him and they mentioned that since The Irishman is on Netflix, people can watch it over multiple sittings. And he was like,
Yep.
What are you talking about?
It's a completely foreign thing to him.
Supposed to watch a movie in one sitting. Who breaks it up?
Yikes. And then we get something like the Roadshow version of The Hateful Eight, where they basically promote seeing it in multiple sittings.
Yeah, man, I loved seeing that in 70 millimeter though. That was pretty cool. I think I went to that maybe 2 or 3 times, like in 1 week. Yeah.
I I've missed it. Unfortunately, I was nowhere near the nearest 70 millimeter theater. I would have loved to have seen that, and I hope I still get a chance to. But I mean, some of those that if shown in film later, at least, and we've given new life to some of these in repertory theater. It's nice to see people grab onto them and still supporting the way that they do nowadays.
Yeah.
And that can lead to some of those moments we were just talking about. You also wanted to bring up, before we go into first time watches, a podcast. Do you want to share your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to kind of recommend to people, especially during the month of October, is one thing I really get into is like old time radio shows. And there is on Apple Podcasts, there's a show called It's Relic Radio, and they have like Relic Radio mysteries, westerns,
nice.
and they also have one called Strange Tales, and then they have one called The Horror. And definitely check out that show, and in particular, any episode of the radio series Lights Out. Are you familiar with Lights Out, Ryan?
I don't think so. I've done some of these before. I've always really loved exactly what you're diving into, like the No Sleep podcast type of stuff. The old, there's a handful of releases that I've played. It's got like special feature, the old radio shows on there, and I've played it over and over because it's the perfect way to not necessarily have a podcast, and if you've listened to it before, it's really nice background sounds for like doing work or studying or something like that. I love stuff like that.
Yeah, Lights Out, I think it ran from like maybe 1936 through the mid 40s. And they do have some guest stars. Like there's one episode called The Dream, and Boris Karloff is one of the actors in it. And that's a great episode. And there's another episode titled The Dream that came out in 43, I think. And it's the same title, but a different story. And it was just on their feed, like within the last month. And that would be a really great one to start with. But there's other good classic radio shows like Suspense.
Mm-hmm.
And Suspense had some big stars, like Cary Grant's on it a couple times. Bernard Herrmann does the music. And yeah, Suspense is probably like production value wise, maybe the highest.
Yeah.
From that era.
That's the one I'm a little more familiar with for sure.
Okay. And then there's also, they aren't like a consistent show, but there are some like movies that they made into radio plays, like what's the one with Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn in Africa? What's that movie called?
Oh, yes.
I'm trying to look for it. My shelves here.
The African Queen.
Yes. So the African Queen, there is like a radio version of it, and Humphrey Bogart like reprises his role.
Yep.
Philadelphia Story, there's a radio version of, and it is Cary Grant. I don't think it's Jimmy Stewart, but I can't remember. But yeah, the old time horror, the old time radio horror stuff there's some really cool stuff out there that I would definitely recommend checking out.
There are, I think it was on the Columbia Classics Volume 3 that is about to come out. There's a couple of the films in there that were done for radio versions that the same actors reprise their roles. And then there's a couple of those films where they also had other actors reprise it, and they got both versions on there. So nice. I'm super eager to see that release.
Cool.
There are quite a lot of those style of shows that have creeped up over the last 10 years that podcasts have gotten semi-popular. And I think this is why I've always loved, like we just talked about Night Gallery or The Outer Limits. I grew up on The Outer Limits like crazy, and I think it's because I've always loved these style of radio shows. And they really have that same sort of feel, and they're ones that, I mean... it's kind of hard to say this without it sounding like an insult, but they're really good to fall asleep to because of that. Because it's just got that almost like a stage play feeling when you're watching it or just listening to it, and it's just like soothing. It's like cozy horror almost.
Yeah, and it's fun on the Relic Radio feeds. They also play like the commercials that aired
Nice.
during the episode, so it's really fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then you brought up October watches right before we got into the radio. So what we wanted to do was talk about exciting first-time watches that we're planning on October. I shared my list for the channel I think it was just last week. And there is a lot on here I've never seen before, but your list is pretty damn interesting. And I am going to try to share it.
Okay, cool.
Get it up on the screen. And of course, it did not copy properly. 1 second. Yours is a pretty unique list. Was there like a certain theme you were going for this year?
Yeah, so I wanted to do first time foreign horror watches. And they're pretty much all from the 60s and 70s. There's maybe a couple from the 80s. And so I kind of grabbed just like 2 movies per country. And I kind of have to limit how much I can put on a watch list because I can maybe watch 12 to 15 movies a month. And so I would love to do a horror movie a day for October, but there's no way it's going to work out.
Yeah, I made the list, but realistically, I know there's probably no way I'm going to get through all of them.
Yeah.
There are some ones that certainly jump out at me here. Castle of Blood and Nightmare Castle are big, obviously. Cannibal Man was also put out recently by Severin. You got Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein closing out the month, and Scream there. But there's a lot there in the middle that I think a lot of people are probably not super familiar with. So which of these are brand new that you are really excited to watch?
Well, a couple of the main ones I'm really excited to watch are well, let me look at I think that's, let me look at the title on here real quick.
Oh, if I highlight it, I think it comes up. I think. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that actually the one you're highlighting now, Even the Wind is Afraid, is one I'm really looking forward to. That's one that Elric Kane, I think that was like one of his top discoveries or something recently. And I haven't seen I've seen very few Mexican horror movies. And so I wanted to get a couple of those in there. So yeah, Even the Wind is Afraid, and the one right next to it, which is, what's that one called?
This one? The Skeleton of Mrs. Morales.
Yeah, so that's the other Mexican horror movie that I'm going to watch. And then next to those, on the other side, are 2 krimis, which is kind of like Giallo, but they're German movies, and they came out before Giallo. I've never seen a krimi before.
Interesting.
And I pulled these from the Mondo Digital. Nathaniel Thompson, he has a list on Letterboxd of his favorite krimis, and these are the top 2.
Oh wow! Now I don't think either of these have blue releases, do they? Do you know?
They don't. Well, they might actually have a German release. I'm not sure, but they are on YouTube. And if you change the view, I did add notes saying where I'm going to watch them.
Oh wow!
Let's see. I've never changed the view.
There we go.
There we go.
All right, Severin, Blu-ray, Criterion, YouTube. This is really cool that you included those. That's great. Tubi. Wow, there's a lot on Tubi.
Yeah. Tubi is kind of a vast ocean of trash cinema that is amazing.
Wow. Yeah, this is a really... I should have pulled it up like this before. Unfortunately, you can't see them all in one screen there, but this is a really cool way to do this. And then for anybody that might be interested in these, I did link the list in the description below. Hunter's Letterboxd profile obviously is attached to the list, but if you just want to go to the profile, that's there as well. Give him a follow. He is a good follow. Stuff like this is going to be one that you are, able to be inspired by and possibly look up yourself. But this fantastic way to show how each of these are going to be viewed, that is incredible. It's a very smart idea as well. I'm going to have to look up Nathaniel Thompson's list on Crimmins. I had no idea he had that. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've read about Crimmins in the book by, what's the guy's name? Justin, the guy who's from the Hysteria Continues podcast, who wrote a book on slashers. It's not called Teenage Wasteland, is it?
Oh, Mike McPadden, or no?
No, it's Justin something. I know his book has a different title in the UK than it does in the States, and I can't remember which one I read it under. But I know he talks about a lot of crimies in that book. Oh, Justin Kurzweil.
Okay. Yeah, I can't find his name anywhere.
Let's see.
Eric says Goats of Yotsuya is legit, and Snow Woman is awesome. Looks like you've got some good ones there.
Nice. Oh, and in the States, it's called the Teenage Slasher Movie Book, which is the most generic.
Very generic title. Ouch.
Yeah, I thought it was called Teenage Wasteland in the UK, but I might be wrong.
Interesting. Teen slasher movie book. Wow.
Yeah, not the greatest, but that is a really good book. I mean, he talks about. I mean, he goes back to silent movies where there's like, a killer, knocking off, stalking and slashing people.
Right.
It's so in depth.
If somebody wants to take a look at that book, I just got a link to it and it's in the chat below. I am adding this to my wish list right now because I've seen this so many times linked, and I've not picked it up yet. But yeah, certainly one that if we're going to talk about stuff like this, I definitely want it.
Nice. And I wanted to, I meant to mention where I found out about Lights Out from, and it's from David J. Skal's The Monster Show. Have you read that book?
I've not.
It's kind of The Monster Show and Stephen King's Danse Macabre. They kind of cover a lot of the same territory. I actually like The Monster Show way more. It's probably my favorite book about the horror genre that I've read.
Nice.
But that one is definitely worth checking out.
Very interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of really great books out there on so many of these different topics. The last one I was reading was on found footage films, and just the way that they explain things. There's so much that you can convey on a book that you can't convey necessarily in like a visual essay, and it's so important if you're going to really analyze film like that to dive in and try to look at some scholarly things on it. And there's not a shortage at all of scholarly books on any of these topics for sure.
Yeah, the found footage one, that's not by Alexandra Heller Nichols, is it? Didn't she write one found footage?
She did. I don't have that one yet. She has written a lot. Way more than I expected. When I first looked her up, I think half of my wish list right now is her stuff. I got to be honest. I'm hoping someday to be able to get her on because she seems just brilliant in everything that she speaks on. So, Cannibal Man, you got on your list yet? That was an interesting watch for me. Also called Week of the Killer, but good release by Severin as well. Came with some decent extras. That period of Spanish film is not necessarily my favorite, but I certainly like the way that they did some of the effects in that are actually pretty well done, and it's a pretty depraved story. I think you're gonna like that one.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't seen very many Spanish horror movies I mean, I especially from that era, I can't even really think of one off the top of my head.
They I don't think this is much of a spoiler, but that era they had a weird take on film because pretty much anything made there they sort of dictated that the bad guy can't win. So not necessarily that it can't have or it has to have a happy ending, but like the bad guy has to atone or come to justice. So there's always this odd point at the end of it where okay, well, we got to get the bad guy arrested or something like that. And some of them they don't work necessarily perfectly.
Okay, gotcha.
But I mean, you take the good and the bad. Some of these eras in film in certain countries they've got odd patterns, but that's just a part of cinema.
Yeah.
October. Did you happen to see the list that I put out that I'm hoping to
Yes, I
watch?
did.
Any on there that you have seen that you are thinking I'm going to like?
Well, I think I mentioned this on Discord, but I love Lamora. I mean, I love that movie.
That is one I don't think I've ever seen, so I'm very eager to see that one.
I want it to get a good release so badly, and like I think it's I think it's Synapse.
Yep,
Their
Synapse DVD.
DVD still looks pretty good.
I should have it close somewhere. Yeah.
I rewatched it last year, and it's still a pretty good looking DVD, but I
Just
love
put
that
it in.
movie. Yeah.
And it's got some special features. It's a new uncut, uncensored, dual layer edition for optimal image quality, bonus trailers, liner notes, audio commentary from the director and actress and producer, still gallery, and it even has DVD ROM content with the original shooting script in a Adobe PDF format.
Oh wow.
Lamora, that is still available, and that release, gosh, do they have the year that they put this out? This is like a 9 or 10-year-old release from Synapse, I think. Oh, whoa, no, it's way older than that. This is from 2004.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first time I saw it, it was after I moved to I saw it in LA, so it must have been 2006 or 2007.
Wow, that must have
Yeah.
been right after then.
Yeah,
Crazy.
and yeah, I'm trying to think whether some of the other ones. Now, Daughters of Darkness, I actually just watched like 2 days ago.
It's
And
it's more tame than it should be, for sure.
it is. It looks amazing. Although I wish I don't have the Blue Underground 4K, which I'm sure is
It's stupendous.
perfect. But I had watched Vampires like the week before the La Ra's movie.
Yep.
And I kind of wanted Daughters of Darkness to be a little more ferocious, like Vampires.
La Ra's is very different than that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. Overall, I enjoyed Daughters of Darkness, but I wasn't a huge fan.
Yeah, with a title like that and the reputation of that film and the imagery that is associated with that movie, you really think it's going to go places, and then it never quite gets there.
Yeah.
Let's see. One of the other ones, Fascination. I'm excited to show my wife that from Jean Roland. Have you seen any Roland films previously?
Yeah. Now he has 2 movies that I love. He has Iron Rose.
Mm-hmm.
I think is amazing. And what's the other one? I feel like I like what most people would consider to be his most accessible movies, but Iron Rose and Grapes of Death. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Yeah. I love those movies. Fascination I wasn't crazy about. It has like amazing imagery.
Yeah.
But it just didn't grab me the way that Iron Rose or Grapes of Death did. And I saw Grapes of Death a long time ago. And I bought Grapes of Death and Iron Rose kind of recently. Watched those, and then I watched Fascination like right afterwards. And I think I watched too much roll on in too short of a period of time. And maybe if I had spread it out a little bit, I would have enjoyed it more, but yeah, I wasn't crazy about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. It is easy to sort of overdose on Roland, I imagine. Thankfully, I've spread out most of my watches with Roland. The Just to throw out there for anybody watching or listening, the redemption titles that is associated with Kino, they are like surprisingly fantastic, even though most of them
Yeah,
are they're probably going around 9 or 10 years old at this point, but the scans that they used for those blue releases look incredible. But considering that those were the first like major releases outside of France of most of Roland's films, it is a beautiful tribute each time you pop one of those in, and no one else is giving that sort of love. So those will be the perfect companion to that future documentary from Kat Ellinger that eventually drops. So that I believe is coming from Arrow in the next 6 months or so.
yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I love Kat Ellinger. I mean, she is just so good.
Yeah, that documentary is special. Yeah, you'll really enjoy it for sure. Let's see. Other ones I am excited for. Ganja and Hess. I have had that on my watch list for ages, and just I kept delaying, and I don't know why. And I said, you know what? This is the time. I need to watch it. Ganja and Hess. You smiled. Have you seen it?
I've seen it. It's been a really long time. Like when I lived in LA, I don't know if I actually want to know how many movies I watched. I know at one point I lived with two roommates, and each of us had a Netflix subscription, and we all got, what is it, like 4 discs at a time or whatever it
Yep.
was. And it was just me paying for the 3 subscriptions because I was watching that many movies.
Wow.
But so yeah, so a lot of the stuff that I saw in LA all kind of blends together, and I don't remember it well, but I know I've seen it.
It is a really really seminal black film, and one that I think is important to see for sure because of the cultural impact that it had and the way that they were able to embrace this different entire culture in this film. And I really have been dying to see it for a long time. Kind of want to compare it to some of the other ones like Sugar Hill that came back around that same era
Yeah,
and see just how they had those same sort of cultural impacts. And this is one that's a unique vampire film, and that's just sort of a really nice way to go down that lane. And I think, gosh, three. Well, no, I was going to say Daughters of Darkness, but three of these that we've talked about, two of them have been on the vampire list, and then one of them's under erotic horror. But Daughters of Darkness really isn't that erotic overall.
no.
It's fairly tame. Um, let's see. I'm excited to make my wife watch The Toxic Avenger next month. I'm curious what she thinks about Toxie. Let's see. Another big one, Reanimator. She has never seen Reanimator. I love Reanimator. I really want to have a
Okay.
sit down and watch the entire franchise front to back in one day. But yeah, we'll be lucky to watch that first film, I'm sure.
Yeah, I love Reanimator. I mean, Reanimator and From Beyond. I love those movies.
From Beyond is iconic for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, Barbara
really
Crampton
good.
is a gift in that movie.
Mhm.
Let's see. I have never seen. I don't think I've ever seen Cemetery Man, and there's so many people that love that movie, and I'm dying to see it. I think I've got a German release of that film on Blu-ray. I know we need a good release of that one, but yeah, certainly one that I'm dying to see, and glad that it's going to be on there.
Yeah, I love
Um,
Suave
yeah,
or Suave. Is that how you pronounce it?
I think it's Suave. Yeah.
Suave. Yeah.
Other than that, the big one that is weighing heavily on me is the Fridays. I decided to go extreme this year. Last year was fairly tame, so I've got a day of every week dedicated to extreme cinema, and there's some on here. I mean, the Serbian film had to be on here. My wife I believe she started it the first time I watched it, and she was asleep. We had a very full day, and she was gone like 5 minutes into the movie. Everybody's warning me about the Bunny Game. I've never seen it, and
I've never heard of it.
wow,
Yeah.
it's got a pretty unique reputation. I believe there is a full, full unsimulated blowjob in it, and lots of like prostitute beating
Oh,
type
okay.
of scenes. Yeah, so super curious about how that one's going to turn out. And then Necromantic. That's the first Extreme film. I've still never seen the original Necromantic.
I saw it a long time ago.
I've got the old Arrow limited edition release that they put out in the UK, and there's a lot of stuff on that disc. And then they did the sequel in the same limited box set. Anyway, Brian brought up, I totally forgot about this. There is a remake of The Toxic Avenger coming out. That is supposed to be done, I believe, and released fairly early in 2023. But we'll see. It's supposed to be a completely different take on the character. And Terry says Reanimator is still one of my favorite theatrical experiences, one of the most pristine prints that I've seen. I can't wait. Supposedly we are getting that on 4K soon, and that is probably going to be a beautiful 4K. The colors in that film and everything, yeah, that's going to be a glorious release.
Is it
right.
Hero?
They did not confirm. It was the director that confirmed there was a 4K coming. It most likely is Arrow, of course.
Okay.
It's probably going to be the same sort of thing where they release it all in the same sort of packaging that they've done, like the 12 Monkeys and some of those other, like the RoboCop release, where it's basically the exact same everything, just with the 4K discs. So we'll see. Hunter, thank you for hanging out tonight. I know that we are watching the clock closely tonight. I hope you've had a blast. This has been super fun for me. I love that we've been able to have a member of the community come on here and just share everything about yourself. This has been great.
Yeah, this was awesome. Yeah, I really, really appreciate you having me on.
And speaking of the community, just another shout out to all the patrons. This is what keeps this going for sure. You guys are incredible. If you are interested, link is in the description below. The Discord would love to have you, even if your takes are as bad as Sean's from Food for Thought.
I will say, if you join the Patreon and are in on the Discord, kind of how Takashi Miike warns those characters in Hostel, you will spend all your money. I have made quite a few Discord conversation inspired purchases.
It gets real bad when Orbit puts out some really good stuff, and I'm like, hey everybody, Orbit drop new stuff, and then suddenly Diabolic, of course, just dropped new stuff, and then everybody at the same time is on there, look at this, and we all compare. Yeah. It's awful, but so amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Again, Hunter, you're fantastic. Thank you. But speaking of the Discord, we'll be probably talking about our September watch along here in not this weekend, but I think next weekend. It might be the weekend after that. We'll see. But we'll have a new poll up for that soon. Hopefully, watching something decent. Yeah. Thanks everybody for hanging out tonight. This has been a nice, decent show. I appreciate the conversation, and we'll see you all next Thursday. Thanks, Hunter.
Yep. Have a good night.